key transferable skills that I see a lot of hiring managers ask for is one, sectoral expertise. So, for example, when I speak about the climate mitigation or the industrial transition, so they are looking for someone who has worked on multiple projects. But when it comes to sustainable livelihoods or it comes to education, there I am seeing, or climate adaptation, there I see that a more broader expertise also works. This is also because the partners that you work with are going to ask you tough questions. If I came to this call and I could not answer a question about hiring or what the process is, I would lose credibility. And that is where the sectoral expertise becomes very important. So when you're preparing for interviews, make sure that you are understanding what is the sector that they are targeting, what are the subtopics, and then you have your notes ready to show that credibility. The rest is pretty standard stuff that even Nazneen spoke about, right? Like you need to have program design, project management experience. You need to know how to build those SOPs, how to build those structures for a team. You need to understand how do adults learn and develop. How do for a program to work, what are some of the steps that you need to take care of, and how do you do action planning, goal setting, all of that. Excellent communication skills mostly is written and verbal. How are you able to influence your people through your words? Strategic leadership in partnerships is self explanatory, but I'll talk about the data analysis and analytical thinking. They are looking for someone who has strong data orientation. They are looking at someone who is able to make decisions using data, look for patterns and trends across different years and predict what could happen in the future and then set yourself up for success. So these things don't need to happen in a particular sector. So if you're able to bring that expertise, you know the tools that can be used, you can look at applying for some of these roles. In terms of transitioning, if you are transitioning into a role that or a sector that is open to people coming from elsewhere, they don't need sectoral experience. These are some of the things that I have seen come up in interviews. They have come up during our screening calls as well. You need to know what is the reason you have passion for the impact sector, right? Why are you wanting to switch? So, a strong why this sector, why this organization within this sector, and why this role within this organization. You need to have some sort of a Venn diagram where you are answering these three questions, because that drives the entire interview, especially in the final round that happens with the senior leadership. This is what they are trying to gauge, that why are you here. End-to-end project management is something that you will have to demonstrate. So make sure you have artifacts, you have a narrative built out, and you are confidently able to share what role you played in a certain project. While partnerships is very important, most of the roles that I have seen, there is a significant component of being able to manage government stakeholders and being able to pitch to the right donors, pitch for right partnerships, funding entities across different sectors. So this is something that is a big plus point. When it comes to senior roles, especially in large organizations, they are not just looking for team management. They want to know how large the team was, how many layers did you manage, how many were direct reports, and how did you coach them versus just supervise 100 people, 200 people. So definitely talk about your layers, because that shows strategic leadership, which is at a director or above. Executive presence. So while we spoke about excellent communication skills, what I'm hearing a lot of hiring managers say is that this person talks well, but they don't have executive presence. What that means is, in a conversation, you're not able to showcase your confidence or you're not able to influence. So while you are preparing for an interview, you need to be sure about your why. And a fourth bonus why am I the right person for this? Right? Where you are coming in with that thought that I am the best person to do this job. So you're able to showcase that executive presence that I can influence an interview panel of two, I can influence a team of 10, I can influence a large hall of 1,000 people. And that's an executive presence that you showcase. And the last one, which comes with its pros and cons, there are organizations that are looking for people with longer tenures because it shows them that, that these people have depth. If they have spent more than 2 to 3 years in a role, they have gone through the learning phase, the experimental phase, and contributed as well. They have also contributed to the growth of the organization over 3 plus years. There are some organizations that don't want someone who has spent all their time in just one or two organizations. They want that variety, they want that very diverse perspective to come in. So, look at this as a two-way street where you are understanding from them what are they looking for. Are they looking for tenure? Are they looking for depth? And then portray that in your interview where you're talking about your journey in every role. Or if you have skipped or hopped jobs very frequently, then also have a narrative around that. What caused that? Because people are looking for depth, people are looking for stability. And for those who are coming back to the workspace after a break, the first thing that you can see on this slide is going to be the game changer for you. If you have sectoral expertise, sector experts are very, very difficult to find, right? And sector experts who know how to achieve results. So if that is something you have, it doesn't matter if you've come back from a break, as long as you have a strong narrative for it, you're going to sail through.
Yeah, very important question for you, Riddhi. What do recruiters look for in CVs for senior program roles specifically? And what are the gaps that you have observed more specifically in terms of what are people constantly like some errors or some mistakes that can be rectified? And how can mid career professionals, especially women, proactively bridge them?
That's a juggernaut question. So I'm going to take it piece by piece. So when it comes to CVs, what I have noticed is that either people are very humble or they are very detailed, which means they either write too less, where they're just giving the role name and moving along, or they are explaining every project in detail. So you should have a standard CV which has at least 3 lines about every role that you have played. And when it comes to these 3 lines, they should showcase what unique skills you have, what knowledge you have, and what achievements you've brought in, right? And your achievements are your selling point. The knowledge and skill is to make sure that the applicant tracking system and the other AI bits are able to pick it up. And any AI chat GPT is going to help you find those keywords based on what your role is. So definitely have one CV like that. And then for every role that you're applying, make sure that you're adding elements that match the requirement of that role. It's okay if it's beyond one page. For senior professionals, people are not thinking about a one-page CV anymore. They want to know this person has the experience that I'm looking for. But if it's a 4 5 pager CV, yesterday I heard a hiring manager say, I like the detail, but who makes a 7 page CV? Yaar? And I know that if I had just sent the CV, it was not a call, they would probably have been rejected on the grounds of written communication, right? So it's a very simple trap that we can go away from. Now, beyond the formatting and everything, like people judge your written communication, your aesthetic design, and how you do presentations from what your CV looks like. So make sure that the fonts look the same, the font size is the same everywhere. You don't have too many boxes. It's a very clean CV with some white space so that it's easy and calming to read your CV as well. Again, there are templates online. There is a like ChatGPT is definitely going to help you. But when it comes to experience, there are, like I have said before, if people are seeing too many transitions, hiring managers do call that out that this person has moved too often. Um, is it a commitment problem? Is it an integrity problem? Were they fired or did they leave? Is it that they are looking to jump very often? So it's very important that you have a narrative for why those jumps have happened. Secondly, if you are in a senior position and you are moving to a new job, it's very important for them to know what did you achieve there and how does that add value to their organization. So doing research on the organization you are applying for and tailoring your CV a little bit to what are the projects they are working on. Like you might have worked on 10 different projects, but you know that this organization is looking at say girls education, so you will talk about the achievements of these three projects where you were taking care of girls education. So you need to do a little tweaking for the roles you're applying for. And especially women, I don't think I have any specifics advice for women on CVs. I think if you've taken breaks, just make sure that you are mentioning that you had taken a break for this reason. You don't have to show that in that break I learned this or I built that or I did these courses. That's not necessary. But your CV should not have a glaring gap. It should be mentioned that you took a break at this time. Another thing that I saw in a couple of CVs, which was again, it could lead to your CV not getting shortlisted. There was one person who had a 5 year block in a particular organization, and they wrote that I am a senior manager here. Now, I knew because I spoke to them that they joined as an associate, and then over 5 years, they were promoted to senior manager. And that is very important because it shows that you grew over time. You did different things all 3 years. And maybe the scale of responsibility increased or the size of team that you managed changed. It's very important for that journey to be visible on your CV, because otherwise it feels like, why did this person not get promoted in 5 years? Did they not meet targets, or was there like anything else that was missing? Maybe they are not leadership material. Someone looking at CV is always judging, right? So if your story can be told in your CV, that's going to help you win.
Yeah.
I'll pause here, Nazneen. If there are
Yeah.
any follow-ups, then I can answer.
Of course, we will take that up in the live Q&A, and I think you've made some incredible points, Riddhi. Especially, I learned this new bit that if you're taking a break, like, do mention it in the CV. This is something new that I've learned today. You don't have to justify what productive things you did or like what was up during that time, but mentioning it is critical, and tailoring your CV, of course, to the role that you're applying for is very, very critical. It's been mentioned a couple of times before as well. So thanks for that. And the second question is also something that often comes up in the AMA about the negotiation conversation and how can one approach it with more confidence and clarity. If we can understand that in brief, that would be great. Yeah, I know it's a tough question, but yes.
Yeah, it's a tough question for two reasons. One, it's very difficult to know what our worth is, and this is not even considering that women generally also have that like conditioning as well. But it's very difficult to figure out what our worth is. The second is a lot of the remuneration that we get is also decided by the organization, right? So I'll tackle both of them one by one. So, knowing your worth needs a lot of research. So, you look at your years of experience, the sector that you are in, look at Glassdoor, look at compensation benchmarking reports that, say, Michael Page takes out, or you can look at any Indian report that comes out. I just know one, but you can look at any Indian report that comes out as well, just to understand what that range looks like. Then tone it down. If NGOs are not already mentioned there, tone it down by say 20 to 30%, and that should give you the range of what you can expect in an NGO. In a social enterprise, you can keep that as your benchmark. Now, the second thing that you need to understand is those benchmarks are for experts in that field. So, what is your level of expertise? Which means, when I join this role, how much of it will I be able to contribute and how much of it do I have to learn? If 60% I'm contributing and 40% I have to learn on the job, then the organization is not going to compensate you like that. Or they might give you a lower role because they know they have to invest in your growth. But if you feel that I can do this role 100%, then you know you're already an expert and they are only going to gain out of it. So that becomes very easy to say that this is what I'm worth because I'm going to come and do these things for your company. So that is on how do you know what the worth is, how much can you ask for. The second one, which is a little sad, I've come across a couple of candidates who were good for the role, but the current organization that they were in was actually overpaying them. And what that meant is that wherever they were applying, they were told कि you only have 8 years of experience. The kind of salary you are asking for, we give to people who have 15 years of experience. And it was actually fair. It was not them being stingy or them trying to, negotiate with her. So it's very important to do this benchmarking. If you're getting paid over that, great, right? Look for similar organizations. If it's a foreign funded organization, if it's funded by a particular grant, look at similar organizations because then you are not transitioning to the right place. Or take a pay cut if you know you are switching sectors or you're transitioning from corporate to social impact. So those are certain things because organizations have certain budgets and NGOs can't budge. It's very difficult for NGOs to budge beyond, say, 5 lakhs or 8 lakhs. So it's very important that you understand which organization you're applying to as well.
Yeah.
Now that you know these two things, how you approach negotiation with confidence and clarity is have your research laid down. I wish I could show you. There was this one candidate who actually won that remuneration negotiation. She got exactly what she want. She wrote a long email saying that this is what I was getting. These are my expenses. I just became a mother. My expenses have doubled, and hence I know that I can manage with the salary that I'm getting. I need this much percentage hike, otherwise, I will not be able to manage my basic expenses. Secondly, this is the value that I'm adding. So she had a 4 pointer bullet points on what value she is adding in terms of knowledge, skills, achievements that she can bring in. And she had taken the interviews as an opportunity to learn more about the organization. So she was actually able to lay out the projects that she would do, which would shift the impact. Now, that is great storytelling. Like that email blew me away. Like I wanted to fight for her and get her that compensation that she wanted. And you also need to make sure that you are understanding from them what are other perks that you're getting, right? So another candidate of mine said that, okay, your budget is capped at this because you also need to be fair to other people on the team. So can I get a variable pay? The variable pay was then adjusted to make sure that if she meets her targets, which is something she's confident of, she is going to get the salary that she wants at the end of the year. So don't get stuck on the fixed pay. Also look at what are the other things. If it's a social enterprise, can they give you ESOPs? Which is something like shares. Can they give you ESOPs? If it's a target based roles, can they give you a variable pay, which is incentive, which can combined get your salary up to a certain level that you want? So these are some of the things that will help you in your negotiation.
Thanks, Riddhi. And I think the point that you're making about doing research for benchmarking is something that's very important before you have that call for negotiation and what's decided, right? So, thanks for making all these very important
I'll give
points.
you a very simple answer for the last one. Look for people that you like reading about, that you like working with, and reach out to them to understand what are some of the roles that might be coming up in the next year. That is how I got my role at Arthan. Was thinking about transitioning the organization where I was working for. I had hit the ceiling, like I would have to change my function to grow. And so I informed my manager and I started reaching out to people. I had three, four exploratory calls where I knew someone. I've read his posts. I like talking to him. I have met him a couple of times. I like the vibe that he gave. And I reached out saying that I want to work for you. I want to explore what is open. And with Rahul in particular, he said, right now I don't have anything, but maybe next year we would look at expanding. And I told him, next year only I want to move, like 6 months down the line. And that's how the conversation started. And I had these conversations with multiple people. So if you want to use your network, this is the way to do that. Just be vulnerable and be very honest. Integrity even comes and transparency even comes here, right? But if it's not your network, then just make sure that do the similar exercise with organizations you want to work with, right? So if I want to work at Teach for India, I'm going to look at who do I know who can connect me to someone in Teach for India. Let me understand. Let me go volunteer in their classroom and then get connected to someone. Once you understand the organization, you are able to say what role can I play here and then reach out. So same exercise. Earlier, you were looking at people in your network. The second one is slightly harder and a longer process where you're looking at organizations that you aspire to work in and do a similar exercise there.